attention, please. We will soon be landing at Westworld, the ultimate resort.
1973 Westworld movie review, computer virus, RONA virus, Michael Crichton robot analysis. Today is July 15th, 2020, and we are in the middle of the RONA collapse, and it might be the time to discuss the 1973 Westworld movie and Michael Crichton's warning about bioengineered evil. Westworld was MGM's top-grossing movie of 1973. It grossed $10 million. It only cost about $1.2 million to make, and they said you had to do it in 30 days. He was a young 30-year-old filmmaker, up and coming, and he got the job done. The movie is imagining the future where people have become bored with the prepackaged, boring vacation to Hawaii. So the rich want a vacation where they interact in an adult-like fashion in an amusement park setting, but they don't get killed. So they're able to go to the Wild Wild West and kill robots, but they don't get killed. That's in theory. So two of the big stars, Richard Benjamin and James Brolin, they arrive at Westworld in a pseudo-spaceship-looking aircraft. They put on their Western clothes. They get settled into the old Western bar with all the bells and whistles, the pretty girls, the bordello. They have their way with two ladies of the bordello, and things start off pretty good. But then it starts to go sideways when they find out that there's this computer virus that's going through all the robots at Westworld, and the snakes are biting people, and things are starting to break down. And this was the first movie that envisioned a computer virus. This was 1973. Real computer viruses did not show up until like 1980 and beyond. This was also the first movie to use CGI special effects. They tried to present a point of view or a vision of the robot, what the robot saw, and it ended up being like an infrared computer camera eyes. John Whitney Jr. created the robot vision, aka infrared computer imaging sequence. He was able to put that together for $20,000 in 4 months. Let's talk about Michael Crichton, the filmmaker who put this film together. He's quite an interesting individual. He was an MD Harvard graduate, but he did not go into practicing medicine. He went into filmmaking. He created Jurassic Park. That was his idea, ER. He died in 2008 at 66 years old. He was an early critic of the global warming scam, which forced the scammers to change the name of their scheme to climate change. Crichton's success stemmed from a feeling of isolation as a child because of his height. He was very tall, which led to him exercising his imagination and his brain wave connections, making him a more clever child because he was isolated and he was able to study more, and he didn't have to worry about getting injured on the football field. Crichton had an interesting way of looking at things. He used the same plot in Westworld he used in Jurassic Park, where, a high-tech amusement park running amok and central control is paralyzed by some sort of failure. And it is also, Crichton later on, he would teach us that the genome, the genome and the genes in our body, the genome is highly complicated, like a cloud interacting with the Earth's environment. This is the connection with Mother Earth and humans that people always felt but could never prove. And so Crichton shows us the vision of the robot, how the robot feels, how the robot sees. And what might not be noticed in this movie, a lot of people might not notice it, is that Yul Brenners' character, the robot, does not smile until his virus has turned him into a killer. Remember, this is how the robot sees things in sort of digital form. But the robot did not smile until he started to kill. As a robot, and he was getting killed every day, and he had to come back, and the guest would kill him again and again and again. He got tired of that, I guess, and this virus started to take over. And it was not until he began to kill like a human that it smiled. And in this scene here, where Richard Benjamin's character splashes Yul Brynner in the face with acid, Brenner's face was covered with an oil-based makeup mix, and then with ground up Alka-Seltzer. And when you splashed water on his face, it began to fizzle. That was some sort of 1973 special effects. So, not to get off track here, but even though Crichton died in 2008, he sort of forewarned us of what we're going on with now with the RONA collapse. He exposed back then, before he died, he exposed how some of the companies, the 666 companies, they can own a disease and a treatment. Seriously. We're talking biogenetics here, bioengineering, laboratory, this nightmare that we have lived for the last 4 months with the RONA. Well, there is somebody out there who can actually stop you from researching the RONA because they actually own the disease. Yes, he was trying to spread the word. He was trying to warn us of the RONA nightmare, but nobody cared back then. Now they do, but it's too late. They actually, like I say, these bioengineering companies, these gene research companies, they have experiments where they map out the gene of the disease, and they own the disease. They own the virus. And we do know that many people have died, but the number of deaths of the people who have died in these gene research experiments, guess what? That is not reported because the deaths are a trade secret. Yes, I'm not making that up. This is what Michael Crichton was trying to tell the world. He told Congress, he told everybody before he died, that these bioengineering, gene researching experimental companies, the people die in the experiments. We don't know how many because the number's a trade secret. And when they map out the gene, they own the virus. They own the disease. You cannot research it. Someone out there would stop you. They own it. It's their baby. And some people might be thinking to themselves, I mean, hey, damn, for a movie review, you seem to be getting a little off track there, big boy. What the hell's going on? And I would think, well, not really. What I'm trying to say here is that Michael Crichton was way ahead of his time. Not only in this movie was way ahead of its time. Even the Terminator takes things out of here from the robot that had acid thrown in his eyes, and then he caught on fire. The robot would not die. I mean, the Terminator grabbed. I mean, face it. Westworld was way, way, way ahead of its time. Crichton was way, way, way ahead of his time when he called out the global warming scam, when he's talking about owning diseases through bioengineering, evil companies. The man was just, well, I hate to use the term genius, but he was just way, way, way ahead of his time. And that would have to do with his research and his imagination and him putting so much time and effort into his work. He worked so hard on this film, Westworld, that after the filming and the editing, after it was all done, he had to take a year off to rest. I guess he was exhausted after making this film. And it is worth noting that apparently Yul Brynner was in need of money because Yul Brynner agreed to star in this movie for only $75,000, and that's way, way below what he was normally getting for making a movie. I guess we all get down and out at one point in time. We live above our means, but we are lucky that they took the time to make this movie. But think about it. If Yul Brynner took in $75,000, you know what, maybe half of that goes to the IRS. The man, let's just ballpark figures here. This is a movie that might be around 1,000 years from now. People might be enjoying this movie for hundreds of years to come, and we are lucky to see it. But Yul Brynner might have put in his pocket $35,000, which was a lot of money back then. But you think about it, for a movie that might last forever, hey, you got to put things in perspective there. Well, in closing, I will give you my rating. It was 8 out of 10 Bravos. Most of you already know I only like to do movie reviews on great, very interesting movies, and this movie was very, very interesting, way ahead of its time, a great movie indeed, one of my favorite sci-fi fantasy movies. 8 out of 10 Bravos. It definitely deserves it.